Hi, everyone, and welcome to the newest episode of I Never Knew, and in parentheses, but my dog did. I'm adding a little subtitle because my dogs are everything. Today's a grand opening of our online store. My dog is everything.net. So I'm just so excited to have my next guest on. I was just telling her off air how fun it is that I get to know so many different people who do so many different things in the life coaching arena, especially. People say you need to have a niche, and I don't really have a niche, maybe relationships, but she's got a really cool niche, and I cannot wait to get into it with her. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Karolina Jadkowalska. I did it. And she is a certified alcohol free life coach who helps powerful women make alcohol insignificant in their lives. She's worked with thousands of clients through her online courses and coaching to change their drinking habit and unleash the new level of health, happiness, and potential to go after their biggest dreams. Her book, Euphoric, Ditch Alcohol and Gain a Happier, More Confident You, will be out on bookshelves on January 4th, which it's already out because this is now October, or we're going into October, September. So her book is out, and she's been featured in Huffington Post, Authority Magazine, Greatest, and Elite Daily. Carolina's passion about helping you discover what really makes you happy outside of a beverage and design a life you love. And we're going to give all the websites and all the information to get a hold of Carolina. But hi, honey, and welcome.
Well, thank you so much for the warm welcome. I'm so excited to be here today.
Oh my gosh, me too to have you. What you're speaking on. So let's talk about your story. And everyone has this I never knew story that we didn't think we'd be talking about the things we're talking about without going through what we went through. So, what did you go through to come to this sort of epiphany of this is what I need to do to help others?
Well, first of all, I just want to recognize how taboo this topic is, how vulnerable, and just we really don't talk about it in our society. And when we do talk about it, we make it very black and white. You're either a normal drinker or you're an alcoholic, right? And I grew up thinking that way, right? Either you're normal, an adult, and you socialize and you have some cocktails on the weekend with your friends, or you have to call yourself an alcoholic and label yourself with the problem and manage your condition for the rest of your life. Well, I'll give you lots of facts to the listeners today about why that paradigm is entirely not rooted in any kind of reality based on what most people's behaviors are. But basically, that's where I found myself, is really stuck with this dilemma. Do I have a problem or not with alcohol? And I'll tell you just a little backstory. When I was in college and grad school, I started drinking and I was partying all the time. I was drinking almost every night, going out, or just not really having coping mechanisms at all as a young adult, and probably very, poor habits I was forming back then. But as I got older, things started to change. As I got into my mid to late 20s, I really got into a healthy lifestyle. I really got into mindfulness. And what really happened was Monday through Thursday, I would live the healthiest lifestyle. I would drink my green juice, I would go to yoga class, I would meditate. And then Friday through Sunday, lots of drinking happened, right? But it was your normal drinking. I was going to game night with friends, sushi night, maybe a wedding, maybe a dinner party, maybe some Netflix and wine. And so it all really looked normal on the surface. But every Monday morning, I woke up feeling miserable. Every Monday morning, not only did I feel groggy from drinking over the weekend, did I feel, not physically my best, but I also felt this really deep lowness, just this really lowness. And I'm a very optimistic person. So it really always struck me, like, why am I feeling so bad about myself? I also just felt like I let myself down. I made all this healthy progress during the week. And every Monday morning, I woke up 5 steps backward. It's like I bulldozed over all of my progress, right? And I was living in this loop for years, years and years and years and years and years. And every time I wanted to change, every time I was like, you know what, can I just not drink this weekend, please? There was the dinner party, there was the hangout with friends. Like, it was almost as if I placed this expectation on my shoulders that I have to drink socially, right? Or else everyone will think I have a problem. But I had the most eye-opening, like, light bulb moment that came on when I heard of dry January, because dry January to me was finally the permission that I needed to try life without alcohol. So I go 30 days without alcohol, or 31, I guess, for dry January. And it's finally like the excuse. It's the thing I can say out of my mouth to explain why I'm not drinking to people. And it was this opportunity for me to really fall into how I naturally felt, not with alcohol ruining my emotions and making my mood chaotic and all the neuro effects we can talk about a little later, but really how do I normally feel? So, first of all, my sleep improved so much. My energy levels started to go up. My mood was elevating. And I can go into that a bit more, but alcohol really depresses our natural mood and our baseline. So I started feeling happier and happier and happier. By the end of January, I didn't really want to start drinking again, but I didn't really think I had a choice. It was like, okay, dry January was the vacation you got to go on. Now it's time to go back to work, kind of a thing. It's
Yeah.
you're an adult, you have to drink, you have to, fit in all these places. So I drink a few times in February, and the contrast just hits me over the side of the head. My sleep is ruined. I mean, I'm talking even a few drinks, 2 drinks at most. My sleep is ruined. I notice after I have a few drinks, I get cranky. Like my mood, I get frustrated, I get exhausted. I start picking little fights with my husband. And just this illusion of thinking alcohol was fun and enjoyable all of a sudden just gets so popped. I'm not enjoying this experience whatsoever. So I decided to take another break at the end of February, and I've basically been alcohol free ever since. And my life has done the biggest 180. Not only did I find more confidence and more happiness in being alcohol free, I discovered what I was really truly meant to do on this planet. And I left behind the things that were causing me to drink in the first place, this unfulfillment and boredom I felt in my life. I changed careers, I left my day job, I formed my own company, I wrote a book, and now I feel literally impact every single day because I get to work with other beautiful souls and help them change their relationships with alcohol. And the thing is that I'm so passionate about sharing with you and your audience is that my story is this story of being in the gray. I wasn't this black and white story, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I really want to impart, that when I'm doing all this research for my book and all the people I talk to, 60% of drinkers actually overdrink. So the vast majority of people have what's called it's complicated with alcohol. And I just kind of want to raise that awareness that we're not talking about massive addiction here. We're talking about just the regular ways we've been conditioned to drink. Basically, anytime it's past 5 p.m., anywhere, right? Any event, and how that could be subtly or not so subtly holding us back from what we truly want most in our lives.
Wow. Yes. So much to unpack here. I love this. As you were speaking, I was thinking about it being more in layers. It's like, I love that you said that. It's usually black and white, but I think there's also layers to it where you question what level is acceptable. And society wise, everything's geared around alcohol. When you go to parties and you almost feel embarrassed if you're not a drinker at these places. They're like, oh, we're having wine tonight, or we're doing a wine tasting with the girlfriends, or why we're having a football game. Why aren't you having a beer? So I think that's the top layer, like belonging, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Is that part of the first part of why you were drinking?
I mean, that was what kept me so stuck for so long. And I couldn't have articulated it back then, but absolutely that fear of the loss of belonging and fitting in, and also being then typecasted, right? Typecasted as not only are you not fitting in because you're doing something healthy or good for you, you're not fitting in because there's something wrong with you, right? Over here. So that fear kept me stuck for so long. And I had to switch it in my mind. So instead of thinking, and this is obviously after years of thinking the opposite, in my mind, when I was actually going through the journey of being alcohol free, my first few weeks and months, I had to change that belief. And so I started thinking, you know what? This is rebellious. This is this role of inspiration and leadership. Most people are not happy with their relationship with alcohol, and I'm going to show people a new way. And I looked up to other people who were doing that. Tony Robbins doesn't drink. Gabby Bernstein doesn't drink. Brene Brown doesn't drink. Like, we have examples all over the place. And so instead of like really kind of going to, I don't know, maybe the average or the mediocre, when we look statistically at most things in America, most people are unhappy. Most people are unfulfilled with their careers. Most people are unhealthy. Most people have poor social connections. Maybe I don't want to be most people. Maybe I'm okay with being a little different. And I have to say, I was kind of like the wolf who leaves behind the flock of sheep, But I have to tell you that not only did I find so many other wolves on that journey, that is my new sense of belonging, but I also inspired a lot of the sheep to turn around and become a wolf and join me too. So like all of those fears were ended up being unfounded, but absolutely. I think so many people don't like how alcohol makes them feel, but then the objection always, well, what am I going to do at this social occasion? How could I possibly get away with not drinking?
Yeah. And sometimes you just need someone that says, I want to follow this person, like you said, being the wolf, someone that just says it's fine to not drink. And that's, that belonging sense of, okay, I don't want to be the one that says it, but she says it, then I'm going along with her. And then we go to the next layer. And I think we have, because I come from a psychology background and I also was married to an abusive alcoholic. So I could easily avoid alcohol only because to me it's associated with bad, but then I didn't carry that forward. If I drank, it was just, I enjoyed it. And it was almost a rebellion for me to drink because he made life so miserable drinking. And so it used to be this, if you can't beat him, join him. And then it became just the enemy. So for a long time, I didn't drink. And so then there's this, what you said, the Monday morning shame and guilt, right? How do you overcome that shame and guilt when it's like, it's just that peer pressure thing. You do something and then you regret it the next day. So how do you overcome that sort of guilt and shame that you did?
Yeah, such a good question. And I think what was really why I felt that is because I wasn't listening to my intuition. And I did eventually listen to my intuition, and that's why I'm so much more happier and aligned because I'm listening to that deepest voice inside of me. But I always felt that guilt, that shame, and like there's something specifically wrong with me. Like me was the problem. So one of the things, especially when it came to alcohol, is actually leaning into the neuroscience of it and then leaning into like the statistics about how many people overdrink or all those kind of facts, that kind of helped me see like, whoa, this is not me. So first of all, alcohol is a depressant. And so with that, it kind of slows our central nervous system down. It's slowing down the cells and the ways that our neurons can fire. But our body has this counteractive process to make sure that we don't just slow down completely. And so in response to alcohol, our body actually produces more stress hormones. So we release cortisol, adrenaline, and dynorphin in response to alcohol. Now, some people can feel this like even within the first drink, if you feel like after an hour, you kind of have a dip in mood. But most of the time we have another drink, to keep the kind of good feeling going. And you kind of feel this in the middle of the night. Some people wake up at like 3, 4 a.m., and can't go back to sleep because that adrenaline's racing through their body. Or the next day, they have massive anxiety. Well, so dynorphin, what I mentioned earlier, it's kind of like the opposite of endorphins. It really makes you feel low and sad. And they've actually found that people who commit suicide have higher levels of dynorphin in their brain. So that Monday morning feeling, although I personified it so much, when I learned about just the science of alcohol in my brain, I was like, that wasn't actually me. That regret and that shame and that blame and that, sad, like beating myself up, there was a chemical concoction in my brain forcing me to feel that low. So that kind of was like, okay, not only is it not me, this is also happening to everyone else who's drinking for the most part, once we're exposed enough to alcohol to feel that way. And that's what I started to see when I looked into just the statistics. Most people who regularly overdrink past the health guidelines. The health guidelines are really low. And so like the way that alcohol functions in our society, we don't just all go to a barbecue or a party and have one drink and then tell everyone, okay, we're done, no more, please stop serving the alcohol. That's not how it works. So really seeing that and learning more about that to see that, what, this isn't just me, this is happening to so many people. It kind of made that elephant in the room like no longer taboo, and it really gave me this rebellion to be like, it isn't me, it's alcohol, and it's the scientific properties of alcohol on my body. There's nothing wrong with me, right? So as I go alcohol free longer and longer, that shame and guilt and sense of just remorse is completely goes away because I have nothing to feel that around. Alcohol is not making me feel that, and alcohol is no longer controlling my behavior to let myself down in the first place. It's almost like a toxic ex-boyfriend, like just how you mentioned yours. Like you're not allowing them in your life anymore. You're like, you can beg, you can crawl, you can do whatever you want. The doors are closed. I'm sorry. And then you don't ever have to feel bad about yourself for letting them in and letting them mess up your life all over again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a point of strength to just say, no. And I have to say the self-love And the self-esteem that grew from that was so powerful because I was no longer breaking promises to myself. And every single day, the past version of me was looking out for the future version of me. And I woke up with that future version of me feeling loved, feeling like the past version of me cared enough to make sure I would wake up feeling amazing. And so there's so many ways that that spilled over in my life, not just being alcohol free, but to get the confidence to launch a business, to get the confidence to write a book, all these areas. I used to have the lowest self-esteem and just didn't believe very much was possible for me, honestly.
Yeah, and learning to set those boundaries and be okay with that. And I think it's so empowering with any addiction when you finally fight back with it and say, it doesn't control me, I control it. It could be, anything, overeating, drugs, whatever it is, even sex addicts. It's learning to take the power over, and then that's empowering and it builds that self-confidence. So let me ask you, because I love asking the hard questions. What about the people who are happy drunks? Because I know this is a drop, like you said, with the cortisol and the stress hormones. Some people drink, and it's actually the opposite. It's kind of like taking ADD medicine, and anybody else, it would be a downer, but for ADD patients, it's actually a stimulant. So, what do you think about that? What happens chemically for those that are higher when they drink?
Yeah. And I was like that. Like, I was not a downer. I was not drinking because I was sad. I was not drinking because I was like morose. Like, I was like, hey, it's Friday. Let's go out. Let's have a good time. That's how I really thought of alcohol as something that brought more fun into my life. Alcohol releases dopamine in our brain. So does cocaine. So does heroin, right? It has a pleasure trigger where that dopamine goes up, and it will feel pleasurable for those first 20 minutes. And oftentimes that side effect of that crash or the stress hormones coming, they come later. So we don't even sometimes associate it with the alcohol itself. And even when it does come, we don't know because we grab another drink and we repeat the cycle all over again. And so, obviously the night of, we can continue to either, drink to, postpone going into that low cycle, which then you'll wake up with the head effects of too much alcohol because of its toxic qualities on the body. Like, you won't feel good the next day, right? But the way people ask is like, well, what if I'm happy drinking? What if it's not a problem for me? I really think that the question shouldn't be, is it a problem or not? Because look at me, I was debating that question for years. Sometimes I moderated, sometimes I didn't. Most of the time I was really healthy. You know what I mean? Sometimes it was just a party that I overdrank. Isn't that normal? Like, I could have analyzed it forever. So I had to start asking myself different questions. Does it truly make me happy over the long term? Not just the buzz I get that night, but like over the long term, is it adding to my happiness? Every Monday morning, it surely wasn't, right? And I wasn't even making progress on a lot of my goals and dreams. So I felt really stuck in life. Is it aligned with my values? I really valued health. I really valued growth. I really valued happiness. And here I was drinking something that neurochemically actually made you feel lower at the end of its cycle. And I was drinking something that deteriorated my health and made me either literally not feel physically well the next day, which is like the definition of health, but also then unlikely to want to do healthy activities the next day. It limited my ability to connect with people because I was really insular. I wasn't able to truly be present with someone, with drinking. So when I really looked at all my values and whether alcohol was contributing or not to my life, it was the detractor. It wasn't allowing me to truly live into my values. And it also wasn't helping me achieve my bigger goals and dreams, which is another really great question. Is alcohol allowing me to achieve my potential, my bigger goals and dreams? And with that stuck merry-go-round cycle, it surely wasn't. So I feel like asking better questions allowed me to see it in a different way. And so what I've noticed in my professional opinion is that the more intuitive a woman is, and I usually work with women, the more intuitive she is, the more that she can decipher whether alcohol is meeting her values and her goals and dreams and her long-term happiness. And I often find that the most intuitive person will be able to recognize, wait a minute, maybe it's not so here, and will actually feel more pain around it. Because oftentimes when you're doing everything else right, you're working out, you're doing well in your job, your marriage is okay, but for some reason, alcohol gives you so much mental anguish. And not even mental anguish because you're thinking about drinking all the time, but you're just thinking about something to do with alcohol. Should I drink tonight? Should I not? Okay, well, I have that presentation tomorrow. Okay, so I'll go out, but I'll only have the 2 drinks. Okay, but then you have to be in bed by 10. I sound like a crazy person, right? And that's like what is going on in women's minds all the time with alcohol. So it's stealing our mental energy without realizing it. So I've just found that really intuitive women lean into these questions. And some people who aren't as intuitive or just don't really listen to their body and their brain, it's really easy to just go out and drink too much at a wedding and then laugh about it the next day. You know what I mean? And that's okay. People can be there. That's totally fine. A lot of men, I work with women, so a lot of like their husbands are kind of a little bit less in tune with exactly how alcohol is making them feel. And it's just like, haha, it's just a part of life. But I really think that that intuition piece can really help you determine and answer those questions. And here's the thing. I love to say this. I don't care if someone drinks 1 drink a week or 10 drinks every day. If you're not completely happy with how you answered those questions around values, long-term happiness, and goals and dreams, it doesn't mean anything bad. It just means that you have the permission to dig in a little deeper and do a little bit more introspection here and do a little self-discovery and start just peeling back the layers about what you really want and what's really serving you. Because I think we have to start asking ourselves, is this what I truly want, or is this what I just want in the moment versus what I want most? And alcohol was always in direct contrast with what I wanted most. And the moment I let it go, I've gotten the life I really want.
Yes. On the priority scale, you looked at it and said, "Is this a priority? Because my priority is my health. So why am I allowing this thing to affect my priority?" And I'm not going to simplify what you said. It was wonderful, but what I heard in there is ask yourself, "Why am I drinking? Not how much." That's really the key is why do I drink? Is it to fit in with people? Is it to escape from something? Oh, I had a stressful week. I just need to have a drink. Well, then we're not managing our stress very well. And, or when I'm around my toxic family, I need to have drinks because I can deal with them more. Again, there's unhealed stuff in there. Us both coming from this life coaching side, there's always a reason why you're relying on something else. It's because you're not relying on your own strength.
Yeah.
So I
And
want to know if you think we should do a better job starting with alcohol education in schools and I mean, we're talking like junior high and high school. Is there a way that we could change it from being the norm to where it's just not normal? I have to say, I have a 14-year-old in high school, a 14-year-old grandson that lives with me, and he's in high school. None of his friends have any interest in drinking. That's just not something he's even interested in. Of course, his father was an alcoholic, is an alcoholic. So I'm so happy to see sort of a shift, but can we do better? Can we educate?
absolutely. And I think, from just even a general emotional regulation and just life coaching kind of skills, like we do a horrible job for like, the youth. Like they have no idea what's up from what, right? Like I went through young adulthood so lost, so unable to deal with the different insecurities. And you know how, the more you grow, the more you learn that like you're not alone. Everybody has these limiting beliefs. Everybody has these fears. Everybody has this, and that. Well, not when you're young. When you're young, you really think you're the only one and you think you're so isolated and just going through things all by yourself, and you hide it, right? But like we really don't learn how to manage our emotions from a young age at all. And so I think when it comes to alcohol, you're spot on, is that the Gen Z is actually the generation that drinks the least, out of all the generations. And I remember for me, like not only was it a rite of passagehood, like children don't drink, adults drink. Therefore, if you want to be an adult and all the things that means, independent, glamorous, sophisticated, you name it, you start drinking alcohol, right? But it wasn't just that for me. I'm an introvert and I grew up pretty shy. So when I started drinking, it was also this magical elixir that turned me into a different person because I wasn't confident in my own skin. And you said something so poignant earlier, is that alcohol's the band-aid, alcohol's the crutch. Like alcohol's never going to teach me how to truly be confident in my own skin. And I used it for years like that, as that band-aid, essentially telling my subconscious, Carolina, you're not good enough. You're not interesting. Nobody wants to talk to you. You're super awkward socially. But here, have this drink and everything else will be better. And that crumbled my confidence over time, not to mention the embarrassing nights or the wine teeth or just anything to do with that. So I really think that recognizing what we're looking to use alcohol for. And a lot of these things are misconceptions we put on alcohol. Alcohol is just like a toxic elixir in a glass. Like society has put all the meaning and the ideas of glamour, relaxation, or all these things onto alcohol. So really recognizing what we're using alcohol for could be really good kind of, I think, education. But also I think we all know that like just don't do it doesn't work for youth. But I think if I knew this, and I hear a lot of parents teaching their young ones this, is that it's a lot more complicated than you think. A lot of people will make it seem like it's this shiny thing and everyone's having their alcohol at parties or, later on, your book party, your wine events, your dinners, whatever. And yet when most people admit that they either overdrink or another statistic study showed that most Americans wish that they drank less or not at all, we're not seeing the full picture. And so giving, I think, the next generations just information around, hey, you might really be inundated by all of these images that alcohol is the key to adulthood or belonging or sophistication or confidence. There's a bigger picture to it. And most people are actually unhappy with drinking. And you might not see that at a party, but I just want you to know that. I think that can really help them know that they always have a safe space to talk to as they do start experimenting with alcohol. And here's the thing that's so insidious about our society is that we're conditioned to do this. Obviously in high school and college, it's a big thing, but someone could get away and not drink in high school and college. They could be part of a certain clique. And then they join a firm after college, and in the firm they're supposed to take out clients for wine dinners and they're supposed to keep up with their bosses and drink. And at that point, it's literally the subliminal message is, if you want to get ahead in your career, you're going to have to drink like one of the guys, right? I've heard that story so many times.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not even then. Maybe it's in parenthood. Maybe you don't drink until you're in your 30s, but all of a sudden there's these memes saying the most expensive part of having kids is all the wine. And
Oh
so,
my gosh, that is so good. You are so right. It's, be a part of the cool crowd. It's, go back to my, generation, Gen X, where, the peer pressure, it was cool. I mean, we were not as educated or knowledgeable. In fact, it was the norm in a household to have drinking parents. Wow, I love that you say that. And I think about, they don't call it liquid courage for nothing. And I think about, if we get to, and with all the mental health awareness, I'm so thrilled that we're allowing the open and safe spaces for people to talk about mental health, because it wasn't that way. And alcohol was a cover for that. That was like, I want to be this person that I know I am, but I'm embarrassed or afraid to show who I really am. So if I go to a party and I do this drinking thing, then like I come out of my shell and I'm this silly person. If someone likes it, great, because it was the alcohol. If someone doesn't like it, sorry, it was the alcohol. So I feel like the alcohol can be that mask for youth. And I know it was for me. And I feel like, when we're talking more about mental health care and we're allowing this at a younger age to say, let's talk about what's going on, then we're not looking, whether it be alcohol or drugs or overeating or anything. I think that's where the key is. I think we have our thumb on the pulse in you with the alcohol niche. I think it's beautiful because it's this self acceptance that you can do what you want, be who you want, and you don't have to follow what everybody else does.
yeah, it's that authenticity and listening to intuition about what's right for you in every one of these kind of cases or stages. Because this is the thing I do believe we get conditioned to drink. It's a societal thing. And then over time, we form habits around it. And then we have our own habits. Every time we repeat something, even 100 times, it's going to be pretty locked into the brain. Imagine how many times someone drinks by the time they're 50 years old. How many thousands of times? So even though at first it's this conditioning that really, then we get locked into the power of habit. And it's like we're in a hypnotic trance when it comes to alcohol. And I'm so fascinated by all of this is because one, it's nobody's fault. Like this is literally just kind of how it was to grow up as a smoker in the 60s. Like that's what society told you to do. It's no one's fault. But now we have the responsibility to really just take a look and say, am I happy with this reality? And we have the power to change. And so, helping women change is really helping them look at what beliefs they think that they're, using alcohol for, and how to debunk those, how to prove them to themselves. You know what? I thought for so many years this was making me more confident, but truly it's not. It's actually making me feel lowered self-esteem over time. Or I thought this helps me relax, but hey, when I looked at the neuroscience, it's actually releasing cortisol in my body. How could this be true? I guess alcohol doesn't really relax the human body. So whatever belief we have, whether it's more grounded in the physical property of alcohol or grounded in the belief that we ourselves are not good somehow, we
Yeah.
can change those beliefs. And then what that does subconsciously is it actually starts changing our desire level for alcohol. Because now subconsciously, all of the reasons why we needed alcohol knocked down. And so literally, it's not about you can't drink or you don't get to drink. I want to help women get to a point where I don't really care about alcohol.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Like a non-factor, just make it a non-factor. What bothers me is, TV and movies. Like, gosh, everybody is drinking in TV and movies. I'm watching a show right now on Hulu, called Tell Me Lies. It's all about these college kids, and it's consistently parties and drinking, and then they're doing this bad behavior, and it's like, ugh, I wish we could just change that. I wish we could have some characters that are like, yeah, no, I'm just doing water. I'm just doing soda. There's a gentleman here locally in Phoenix who goes around and educates college students on partying without alcohol. And I think that's a great place to start with a movement that you can still have fun without the alcohol. And then we release that programming, I think. What do you think of that?
I think so. That's so big. And once we really give people the permission, because right now, I'll just say how it is. Things are changing, but for right now, people think that you either don't drink because you have a problem, or because you're boring and not fun and maybe religious. You know what I mean? That's like the negative stereotypes. So we need to change that and really make it the positive. Like the movers and shakers don't drink. The most successful people don't drink. The athletes don't drink. Like we can really ascribe these new to being a non-drinker, and it starts to change it. So it's like, oh, the losers drink. I mean, pardon my language, I'm not trying to be mean or judgmental, but if we could change how young people see it, right, and really see it as this like status symbol of being a non-drinker, or just really giving the inclusion to do whatever you want. Like my dream one day is that you walk into a bar, 50% of people could be drinking alcohol, but the other 50% are enjoying alcohol-free beverages, and it's all okay. No one's like, why aren't you drinking? What's in your cup? Like that's crazy. Nobody does that at a restaurant for the food you have on your plate. Why are we so like asking people about what they're drinking? It's just a beverage. It shouldn't matter, right? So much.
Yeah.
And I think that's what like true acceptance and inclusion is really making that a valid option, if not even the more desirable one.
Yes, that's a great analogy. We don't judge you for the food, like, or how about, let's go even further. If you're a vegetarian or a meat eater, it's like, well, we don't judge that. Why are we judging whether you're having alcohol or not? So tell us about your book, because you're both of your books, because I think it's just so interesting. The methods. Let's talk about, what are the methods that you help women in your life coaching to change that mindset, to flip the script and not want alcohol anymore and make it a non-factor.
Yeah. So I think one of the fears a lot of people have, in addition to a lot of the fears we've already kind of gone through today, is deprivation. Like this is their treat. This is how they relax. This is how they get to unwind at the end of the day or the weekend. And so it's like, oh, I'm going to not be able to drink, deprived. So my book is really trying to show people how literally technicolor, how life-changing a break from alcohol is, how amazing your body will feel. So I really go over a lot of the science of what happens when you take a break from alcohol on your body level, how your energy levels will go up, your sleep will improve, but also internal things like your cholesterol has been proven to go down, blood pressure will go down, gray matter in the brain grows, liver fat heals, your immune system heals, your gut bacteria biome gets better. Amazing, incredible changes literally in really short periods of time too. So it's really hopeful. And then from the health, to how the mindset change, how your soul changes, how you start just seeing and appreciating more things. You get more in tune with nature, you get more confidence, more creativity, more intuition. So that I can really change this idea that it's all about deprivation to actually, if you've been drinking ever since you're 18 and the only times you stopped is like pregnancy or something, you are missing out. You have no idea how amazing you could feel without alcohol. And you don't have to quit forever. Just try a break, right? And so then my book guides someone through an 8-week break to really learn how to do so and how to change their mindset at the same time. The thing is that the health studies that have been coming out for the last 5 to 10 years are saying there's no safe amount of alcohol. All the things we used to believe that alcohol in moderation was good for you. Nope, there's no reliable correlation of that. That was something that, was kind of twisted by the alcohol industry, and then they went with it, and now they're really saying it's not good for your heart. Even 1 glass a day is not good for your heart. It's not good for your brain. It's really bad for cancer risk. So we're really getting to this point where being alcohol free isn't something you do because necessarily you have a massive problem or because you grew up in a religious household. It's the healthiest way to live, and if we're going into different diets like paleo or gluten-free or dairy-free or all the things that people have permission to experiment with and find the best diet for them, why not alcohol-free? Like, it probably would make one of the biggest differences. So really giving that permission to just know it doesn't matter why you're here. It doesn't matter whether you want to improve your health, maybe lose weight, maybe be a better role model for your kids, maybe just stop the emotional dependence you have on alcohol. You're welcome. You're welcome here, and here's how to change. And to me, that process of changing is really kind of what I described before, is how can we take those big pillars of why we drink? And I will say everyone has maybe 10 to 20 different pillars. I like the taste, helps me unwind, makes me feel more confident. Whatever it is, I like the buzz, and really kind of knock those down through a process of thought work, of really changing our beliefs and our thoughts around alcohol. And so my book will help walk someone through that process, also help them. What I like to talk about is alcohol is this dopamine release in the body, right? It triggers our pleasure center, but it's so artificial. Like, you could put like brain nodes on a rat and affect their pleasure system by just doing an electrical pulse, right? So you press a button and the brain like has this pleasure for the rat. Are they really experiencing joy? Is that real? Right? And that's kind of what alcohol does. It's this fake pleasure. It's just this just like any other drug. Like, I like to ask women, what really makes you happy? What brings you organically joy? So in my programs and in my book, we have this whole week dedicated to finding and experiencing new things to make you happy. Whether it's kind of like being a kid again, those hobbies we put on the shelf a long time ago, getting our rollerblades out, going to a tango dancing class, going to a pottery class, really exploring the world again like a kid to really discover what brings us joy. And from there, kind of taking it deeper, not just what brings us, some fun or some laughs. What is uncovering our deeper purpose in life? What is our soul guiding us to? How are we going to find fulfillment and meaning so that we're not looking for a buzz at the end of the week? My weekend kind of pattern was really this: I can't wait for Friday. I can't wait to go out. I can't wait. This week won't go by fast enough. Can I just get to the weekend? I never really stopped to ask myself, why am I so unfulfilled with my week? And so I've changed my life so much and guide women to do the same, to find fulfillment in the everyday. And those emotions that we're numbing with alcohol, whether it's like a stressful day, like you mentioned, those emotions are trying to show us what we want or don't want in our lives and giving us subtle shifts to be able to make those little changes. And it's not an all or nothing thing, black or white thing. That's why this is like a journey that people go on. But I really don't care that people drink. It's not about the alcohol. It's about making space for what you really want most in life. And the women I've worked with have just shown that when you remove alcohol, you unlock what you really do want most. I've worked with women who've launched businesses, written books themselves, moved to Europe, just found so much more fulfillment when they really know themselves and are working on their dreams. And going alcohol free was like the click to really change a lot of those beliefs of what's possible in their lives.
Yes, because it's one of those things that just, it's a resistance. It's a thing that's in the way of receiving that intuition or the fulfillment. You and I are so in alignment with, how my life coaching is and your life coaching as well. It's, first of all, when people say, the pillars, I just heard pillars equals justifications. So it's like, I do this because, and we've convinced ourselves, I need this thing. When we stop saying I need this thing and bring it to, oh, I just want it because it's giving me something I'm not giving myself. You said it, fulfillment. I was waiting for that word to come and that word came out. when I have clients that are not fulfilled, I, like you, say, find your passion. Let's find your passion. What is it that brings you joy? And even go volunteer for something until you find that passion. Just get a high on something else. And I think giving is a high. I think animals give you a high. I think cooking gives you a high. I'm very creative and crafty. That gives me a high. So you're right. It's seek the thing that fulfills you most instead of covering or thinking this thing that's not healthy for you, because mind, body, and soul needs to be in alignment. If you're like you said over here, Monday through Thursday doing fabulous, and you're in alignment with yoga and meditation, you're undoing. So it's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, because now your body is not in alignment with the mind and the soul, right? So we're out of balance, which is what makes everything in life a struggle, is any time that we are out of balance. And that part of it, with those stress hormones, with the chemical changes in our bodies. And it's funny that I agree with you. As I got older, now I'm 52, so I'm over the half century mark. I used to drink a lot, and I used to do the whole wine thing, and wine for me, and it's kind of a joke. We have memes about wine and women and wine and parenting and wine. And then the drink red wine, it's got antioxidants, so here I am like justifying more. Oh, it's good for me. My dark chocolate and my red wine, I'm actually doing something good. But I have found, like you said, I'm so fulfilled with this podcast and my writing and my life coaching that the desire to go anywhere or drink it's just not there anymore. I've replaced it with the self-love and the joy that I find in these other things. So I agree with you. Finding replacements for what you think alcohol is doing is really key.
And I love that you use the word high, because like a lot of people say like, well, I like the buzz. And you're like, no, you don't even understand what a natural buzz feels like. And especially because alcohol is really messing up chemicals, we really don't know what it feels like. Like we feel high naturally, especially when we're doing these things that bring us meaning and giving back or adventure, whatever it is for you, learning something new. Because the way that alcohol affects the brain, I remember, a hike with my husband was like a 5 out of 10. And then I was like, but I really can't wait for happy hour. That's going to be a 10. And because alcohol, with that dopamine release, it kind of changed the way my brain perceives joy. So it's like, take a break and then find those things, and you will find yourself high, truly. And that's the coolest part, is when a woman rediscovers that, you're just like, yes, that's it. Like I get to feel high every day, as you do. And that's not just this immediate gratification we get or a short-term buzz. You're high because you're changing people's lives. You're high because you're creative and putting work out into the world and leaving behind a legacy. I mean, all of these things are what we want most in life.
That's what I was thinking when you said the instant gratification. It's a quick fix, because I don't want to exercise. Sorry, don't want to do it. I'm a chunky girl and I have arthritis, and I'm at the point in my life where I'm like, oh God, I know I need to get up and walk, and I know I've got to go do this thing, and I've got to eat well, and I've got to cut out my sweets. So the alternative in our minds, we've said, this is hard, this is easy. Here's the quick fix, the instant gratification, which is, listeners, let's be honest, that's a normal human thing. We want protection from things that are hard or scary or unknown. And I think the normalcy of drinking is the known. It's the comfort zone. It's okay to do it because everybody does it. After being in a really damaging, traumatic marriage with alcohol and being physically abused, and especially because this was back in the 90s, the military was like encouraging these men to drink. It was like, I am not kidding you, at the NCO club, the non-commissioned officers club, a case of beer was $3. Okay, so they made it affordable, acceptable, sociable. And what they didn't support was these men going home to their families completely intoxicated and abusing. and then we'd go seek help from their like their COs or their first sergeants, and it was, let's not talk about this, let's just smooth this under the rug. And it was so sad. It was such a flipped idea. So I think, like you said, corporate world, we're going to go on the golf course and we're going to just do beers. We're going to go to Top Golf and we're just going to drink and drink and drink. We need to change the dynamics. And I know you focus mostly on women, and this happens with women too in the career ladder. I bet a lot of women need to feel they need to drink to fit in with some of these men to get, anywhere in the corporate ladder. So it's really where it's acceptable, not even acceptable, but where it's pressured, I think needs to change.
And that's it too, right? Like, this isn't about prohibition. This is about telling people they can't drink or anything like that. But right now, we have an expectation and a pressure to drink under most scenarios, and there's no really acceptable way out of it. And I think that's wrong, right? And so this is really giving people more choices, more freedom to do what's in alignment with their values, with their dreams, and giving them a third path, right? It's not just the two paths of, either I drink and I deal with all these negative side effects and consequences, or I don't drink, but I have a scarlet A burned on my back. This is like the third choice. This is the third kind of option. And I think that, really marrying alcohol free for any reason, whether it's health, mindfulness, dream attainment, being a better role model, like, we need to just normalize that, because I think this alcohol free movement has been around for a few years. I can already see the way it's changing things. There's mocktails on, bar and restaurant menus now. There's so many beverage companies sprouting up. People are drinking less in certain places and situations. But before that, the alcohol industry was really controlling the conditioning. And over the last 20 years, it got women, like you just mentioned, women to drink more than any other demographic. And that was their target. Drink like a man to keep up with your career. Hey, mommy, you need a treat after work. You're juggling. Women need fair compensation. Women need support. Women need community. Their problems are not going to be solved with a toxic beverage at the end of the day. It's almost trite when you think of it. How rude it is for the alcohol industry to kind of prey on overstressed women like that.
I have to tell you something that bothers me. And this is so great that we're having this conversation. It just hit me. I don't know if you've seen these commercials lately with Miller Lite, where they are integrating the beer with like fitness. So these two women are running and jogging, and the one friend is sitting at the driveway holding two beers as her one friend runs up and is like, "Oh, I'm so tired." And her friend's like, "Here, have a beer." I literally mentioned this to my husband, and I go, what kind of campaign is this? Hand her a water, okay? Hand her something that has electrolytes. And there was another one that came out too that was similar to that. I think they were in the gym or something, and I was dumbfounded. I thought, you're now going to try to convince people that healthy and beer go hand in hand? Like, I mean, I understand if people like to do it. I get that. But when you're putting it in the same space, in the same frame, I don't feel like that's right. I feel it's so contradictory. I mean, you wouldn't hand someone, a line of cocaine in the gym. You wouldn't hand them a meth pipe as they're walking, as they're coming off of their track run. Like, why don't we view, I'm getting on my soapbox now. Why don't we make alcohol? Because I think the availability and the acceptability of alcohol has ruined the view of the truth, which is it is a drug. There are more people addicted to alcohol than drugs.
And more deaths and more loss of life. And we think of usually like accidents or really extreme cases like cirrhosis. Alcohol contributes to so much breast cancer that women are unaware of. Like, it really is affecting our health in so many ways. And when you get the alcohol industry preying and manipulating messages like that, they want to keep us confused. They want to have this confused notion that maybe alcohol is good for me, and a lot of these really, really comprehensive studies done over the last few years where they took all the studies ever done before and really did the meta-analysis, it's like, no, there's no safe amount of alcohol, right? And we can all be
Yeah.
educated on that and everyone can make their own decisions like that. But to really distort that truth, especially when you marry it with wellness, that's a faux pas. That's like, can you imagine the cigarette industry doing that? Like smoke some cigarettes after your run or
That's what I'm saying. Like they just don't put alcohol in the same category, even though it is in the same category. It doesn't make sense. So as we wrap up, because I just think all of this, I could talk to you for hours because it's just so. I see your passion, and I always know when something is coming literally from the deepest part of their soul, and I see your passion for it. And I want to know, how do women reach out and find you? Because this is more than addiction counseling. This is different. This is, let's make it the new norm that you don't have to drink if it's something, and let's figure out why. Not how much. It doesn't matter. We don't care how much you're drinking. We want to figure out why you're drinking. So tell us where to find you. Tell us where to find your books. Give us everything, Carolina.
Thank you so much. I couldn't have said that better myself. So if you want to learn more about coaching, I also host retreats, my signature programs. You can go to euphoricaf.com. And then if you're interested in my book, just type in euphoric on the Amazon, or if anywhere you live, just go to www.euphoricbook.com and you should be able to find it in your area. And I just want to say one last thing to your listeners. Again, this doesn't have to be this, oh no, now I have to change this kind of a thing. There is this beautiful curiosity that we can have, this curiosity of, I never really thought of it this way, or I never really allowed myself to ask these questions. And I'm really interested in getting to know myself better and getting to know, like, where did this conditioning come up in my life and what do I really want, and all these kind of questions. So I think it's a curiosity, journey. And I don't even talk about quitting alcohol. I really don't use that word. I talk about experimenting and taking a break, because they've proven that around 80% of people who try a long-term break from alcohol actually don't want to go back, because what they discover on the other side is so just imagine, like, that curiosity, leaning in even before you take a break from alcohol. Maybe your first step is just to read a book, listen to another podcast. There's so much out there today. But I think that curiosity is really coming from your intuition, and to just let it guide you.
Yeah. It's just the bravery to try something you haven't done before. I think, and the it's neat because the thread of commonality through every single guest who's been through something is the curiosity to try something they haven't tried before. And then when they're on the other side of it, then we all talk and they go, I had no idea, because I finally had the curiosity to just say, this wasn't working, so let me try something different. I always ask my guests, you're marching downtown with 100,000 people behind you holding a banner. What does your banner say about what you want to do to change the world?
Yeah. Oh, I think be an alcohol-free rebel. I
Ooh.
really identify with the idea of rebellion in the sense of, we want to be independent. We want to have autonomy in our lives. And, when you really look at it, there wasn't that much choice when it came to alcohol as we were growing up and conditioned into our habits. So be a rebel.
Yes. Yes. I think we need more alcohol free places to go to. I'm going to just throw that one on as a side note. So I want to change the world on this. So be an alcohol free rebel. I love that. And then, of course, the last thing I always ask is, what is Carolina's shameless self indulgence?
Ooh, what is my shameless self-indulgence? Well, I love to travel. Like travel, I'm so obsessed with. And I don't think that's shameless, but I can spend so much time just researching trips and being on the different social medias and looking at people going different places. Like that is part of the greatest fun for me, is like the trip is great, but all the anticipation beforehand as you do that research and you lean into it, I could spend hours doing that. And I've completely not done work all day and just looked into different travel, deals or locations or blogs and all that kind of stuff. So I'm obsessed with stuff like that.
You are very similar to my daughter. She's 30, and she just bought her first house, so she's a homeowner now.
Mhm.
And she's done solo trips by herself. She did London for a week. She's done Cancun. And I love traveling. So her and I have done mom-daughter trips once a year because she lives in Texas and I live in Arizona. So we've always said we are taking a trip where neither of us have been once a year. And that is travel.
Aw.
Travel is fun because you have, I see it in you where you have this, it's your curiosity factor, and you'll never be satisfied because I don't want it to be satisfied, right? I want to always be curious about people and places because I want to keep learning every single minute of every single day. So I could not thank you enough for being here today, Little Miss Sunshine. And I'm just so happy that you're here. Your message is important. Your niche is important. I'm so happy that you found your purpose, your fulfillment, and your soul that you're sharing with others. And that's what this is about, what we never knew, and being on the other side of it to help those that don't know yet is really why I do this. And this is what my purpose is we are here as humans to help one another. So thank you, my love, for giving me an hour of your day. That is a total gift that you'll never get back, and I never take that for granted. So thank you, Miss Carolina. I think she froze on me. So, listeners, I just want to say thank you for listening today. What an interesting topic, and I would love for you to comment, to reach out to Carolina if you need coaching, if you want to read her books. I think it's just it's really, this is a new movement with our mental health awareness, our suicide prevention. I think we're really on the right track in our humanity, and we're doing better every day, and I'm just so thrilled. So go to Life Coach Maureen if you want to get a hold of me, if you want to be a guest on the podcast. Leave those 5-star reviews for us, and let's build this I Never Knew community even bigger and better. And I'll keep bringing you wonderful guests like Carolina. Thank you, my love.
Thank you.